Hi everyone! This is my presentation on my identifications for the upland ecosystems. The first ecosystem we'll be talking about is the Mesic Flatwoods, and this is my landscape photo for the Mesic Flatwoods. So my first identification is this vanilla leaf individual. I identified it down to the genus Carpiferus. It could either be Carpiferus odoratissimus or Carpiferus odoratissimus variety subtropicanus. Both of these ranges overlap, and the way to tell the difference is by the amount of vanilla scent that's produced when you crush the leaves. So the Carpiferus odoratissimus emits a really strong vanilla scent, while the subtropicanus variety emits very little to no scent. Because I didn't crush the leaves, there's not really any way for me to tell which one this individual is. This is saw palmetto. Its scientific name is Serenoa repens. I know this is saw palmetto because it has spines on the petioles that are characteristic of saw palmetto, and the range is found throughout Florida as well as in flatwoods specifically. And a fun fact about this one is that medical research suggests that the fruit of this plant can actually help treat prostate cancer. This is pennyroyal, or Pyloblephus rigida. It has the presence of hairy opposite lanceolate leaves and is found in dry sandy spots throughout central Florida, so the flatwoods is a potential spot to find it. And a fact about this one is that it has an earlier blooming period compared to most of the other plants found in that similar ecosystem, so it's important to bugs like bees, butterflies, and anything else that's using it as a source of nectar, because it's kind of the only one that provides nectar at the time that it does. Next up is chalky blue stem, also known as Andropogon virginicus variety glaucus. The blades of these plants fold sharply and keel, and they also have a blue tint with orange colors at certain points on the blade, just like you see in the picture. They're also found in Orange County in various spots, so it would make sense for them to be found in the Mesic Flatwood that we were in. They're considered a primary succession plant because they can quickly grow to rebuild an ecosystem after a significant disturbance, like something like a hurricane or a really devastating wildfire. This one is staggerbush, or rusty staggerbush. It is Lyonia ferruginea. The lower surface of the young leaves are covered in rusty scales, and the leaves are alternate. This species is found in wet pine flatwoods and also dry sand pine. The flowers have a scent that's pretty similar to a rose. Here we have a roundleaf thoroughwort, or Eupatorium rotundifolium. It has opposite leaves, a very fuzzy stem, tubular white flowers, and they are found in Mesic pine flatwoods through north and central peninsula Florida. This plant was also previously used by indigenous peoples to induce vomiting. This is our longleaf pine, or Pinus palustris. It's identifiable most by the fact that it has 3 needles per fascicle, or groupings of 3 needles, and it's the characteristic tree species in Mesic flatwoods. And the fun fact that we all kind of learned is that this is the primary tree species that red-cockaded woodpeckers use to make their nests. So they'll typically only select the longleaf pine trees that are at least 80 years old, which is why they're such a specialist species. This is a Halloween pennant, or Calithymus eponina. It has a yellow stripe going down the center of the abdomen, those bright red eyes, one complete dark band on the wings, and incomplete bands going towards the center of the body. It's a little interesting because the male Halloween pennants are not territorial towards each other, and they can actually be seen congregating on the same like branches and ponds and stuff, but most dragonfly species, the males can be pretty territorial. This is an agrarian sac spider, or Chirocanthium inclusum. They have a lighter white cephalothorax and translucent white head and legs, along with darker brown pedipalps and chrysalis. And they're called silk spiders because they don't actually make webs, and instead they make these little flat silk sacs in areas where they spend most of their time. So they kind of just hang out on a hammock all day. This is a banded garden spider, or Argiope trifasciata. They have bands that are present on the legs and the abdomen, as well as some characteristic spots that are found on the abdomen. And they're usually found on plants. So that makes me think that this is a banded garden spider. They're an excellent pest control species because they're usually found in people's gardens, and they eat insects like grasshoppers or wasps that people can consider pests because they'll eat their plants, or you just don't want wasps around, so they're pretty cool. Here we have a six-spotted fishing spider, or a Dolomedes triton. They are typically found in standing bodies of water in Florida, so things like ponds or even small puddles. They have a yellow to brownish body with approximately 5 pairs of white spots along the abdomen. The name six-spotted actually comes from 6 dark spots that they have on the underside on their sternum, so it's not actually referring to the spots that they have on their back. The next ecosystem we'll be talking about is the scrub. So here we have American beautyberry, or Chelicarpa americana. So this shrub has multiple branches. It has opposite leaves with really crenated or really deep margins, and those characteristic purple berries. It's also found in lots of pinelands throughout the state and scrublands. But the fun fact is that its genus name is Greek in origin, and it means bearing beautiful fruit, which it does. That's true. Next is Walter's ground cherry, or Physalis walteri. This plant has star-shaped yellow flowers, very long leaves, and hairs on the stems and leaves. They're also found in lots of sandy environments in Florida, such as the scrub. They are members of the nightshade family, which includes tomatoes, peppers, and potatoes, and the fruit is edible when ripened, but when under-ripened, it can actually be kind of toxic. Next is sand pine, or Pinus clausa. This pine has red-tinted bark and needles that are arranged in groups of 2, and they're not very tolerant to urban environments, but they can also kind of be used as a Christmas tree if you trim them the right way. Next is Garberia, or Garberia heterophylla. This shrub has undulating or curled-in margins, which is why they have that really cool leafy look, a gray hue to its leaves, and alternating leaf growth, and it's actually listed as a threatened species in the state of Florida. Next is rosemary, or Florida rosemary, which is Serratiola ericoides. They have strongly revolute opposite leaves, which basically means it's those very skinny needle-like leaves, and a rounded overall form, and is also very characteristically found in scrub habitat. They have chemicals in their root system that prevent other plants from growing nearby, and we all know this is called allelopathy. Next is silkbay, or Persia humilis. It has lanceolate leaves with the lower surfaces being bronze or rust colored, and they're also very characteristically found in the scrubs of Florida. And something interesting about them is that lots of other bay trees in Florida are susceptible to laurel wilt, which is a disease that's caused by an invasive beetle species, but silkbay is less likely to contract and die from the disease because it just doesn't attract the beetle as much due to just being a smaller size. Here is sand live oak, or Quercus geminata. The leaves are alternating, they have strongly revolute margins, and they have a pale underside and are characteristically found in scrub habitat. Despite being very salt tolerant, the species doesn't survive very well when it's flooded with salty or brackish water. This is a species of prickly pear cactus, which I identified down to the genus Opuntia. That's because there's multiple species of prickly pear cactus, and the way to tell is usually including their spines, their flowers, or their fruits. But because this individual is pretty young, I didn't think that I had enough information to go off of. But some Opuntia species are edible. This is the Florida scrub jay, or Aphelocoma corulicans. You can tell that it's a scrub jay because it has a white chin, belly, and the back between its wings has some white colors, and the rest kind of being filled in with that light blue. It has a black beak and a really distinct call that we were hearing a lot while we were in the scrub. And they're awesome because they're considered an umbrella species, because the many protections that we have for this species helps protect lots of other species and the scrub habitat as a whole, which we all know is super important. Next is the blue-gray netcatcher, or Peloptia cerulea. They have a blue-gray body with black feathers on the tips of the wings with a white streak. They have black legs with a gray top of their beak and a pale bottom of their beak. and they have a light pale or white underside, and they actually use spiderwebs and lichens to help build their nests. Here's the six-line race runner, or Aspidocellus sexlineatus. The way to tell is that it has 6 distinctive yellow lines running down the body with a long, dark, and scaly tail, and they can actually run up to 18 miles per hour if they were approached and felt threatened. Here's the two-striped walking stick, or Anisomorpha buprestoides. They have long antennae, longitudinal black stripes, and a larger female than male. And when they die, their colors change and their stripes become much less distinct. So when people pin them, they actually look quite different to how they look when they're alive. Next is our hardwood hammock ecosystem. So up first we have Caesar weed, which is Urana lobata. This shrub can be found in lots of different hardwood hammocks, and it has pink flowers with 5 petals and a distinct stamen, and it has these large flat leaves that kind of look maybe like an elephant's foot. It's very invasive in Florida, so it's bad. Here we have a resurrection fern, or Pleopeltis polypoidioides. This epiphyte can be found in hardwood hammocks, most commonly on live oak trees, and it has those rust-colored leaves, especially when it's a little bit drier. But these ferns can lose most of their water content and still survive for years after the fact, unlike a lot of different fern species. Next we have tall elephant's foot, or Elephantopus elatus. It can be found in woodlands with lavender or pink flowers that are subtended by 3 leaf bracts and very hairy stems, and allegedly the leaves look like an elephant's foot, I guess if you've never seen an elephant before. But they are a member of the aster family, which includes things like dandelions, sunflowers, daisies, and even lettuce. This is cabbage palm, or sable palmetto. It's found all over Florida in a wide variety of habitats. It has boots that are encircling the trunk, and it has a smooth petiole that comes to a point at the very end before breaking off into the rest of the leaf. And the removal of the heart, quote-unquote, heart of palm causes the tree to die, and people used to harvest this bud to eat. Next is southern magnolia, or Magnolia grandiflora, but it has these dark, alternating, leathery leaves with a rusty color underneath, and its flowers are large and very fragrant. They're also very intolerant to very wet soil or flooding, which is why they do well in slightly drier hardwood hammocks. This is Christmas lichen, or Herpothalon rubrocinctum. They are found in mesic to hydric forests. This is a crustose, meaning that it forms like a crust, lichen with gray to greenish white sections surrounded by bright red color. They are actually considered an indicator species because they have a high sensitivity to pollution, so they're a good indicator of the air quality in an ecosystem. This is wild coffee, or Psychotria nervosa. They have simple glossy leaves with deep grooves, and they're found in Florida hammock ecosystems. This plant does produce beans, but they don't have any caffeine in them, though they can still be roasted and consumed in a drink that's like coffee. Here we have the Florida gopher frog, or Rana capitoaesopus. They're found in sandy scrub near gopher tortoise habitat, hence their name. They have a brown-gray coloration, dark oval to round dorsal spots that are outlined with a lighter pigment, and they have a prominent dorsolateral ridge, or that ridge that goes along their back. And they are actually one of the 350 plus species of animals that live in gopher tortoise burrows. This is the brown anole, or Anolis sagre. They are found all over Florida in a variety of different habitats. They have that brown coloration with light yellow spots on the sides and dark stripes running down the center of their bodies. And they are native to the Bahamas and Cuba and are considered invasive when they're in Florida. This is the Florida carpenter ant, or Camponotus floridanus. They are obviously found in Florida, and they have a rusty brown head and thorax with a dark black abdomen, and hairs all over their bodies distinguish it from some other similar looking species. While they are called carpenter ants, they don't actually eat wood, and they tend to nest in sections of wood that have already been excavated by other species of ants, so they're really not as bad as some other termite-like species. My last identification is based on a feather I found that likely came from a barred owl or Strix varia. It's likely a small secondary wing feather based on the fact that it has those alternating bands of white and brown with a brown tip and the light, like down-like quality at the base of the feather. And then here is just some of my favorite photos that I took. I think that these did a really good job of capturing the species and that you can see everything really, really well. So I just wanted to show these ones off. And here's a scrub jay picture featuring Dr. Clouden. Bye everyone, thanks so much for listening. Here are my citations.